Hello, hello. Here we are again coming to you with Broadcast Team Alpha on 44 different platforms around the world, and we're going to have some fun tonight. I got a really interesting guest for you returning to Broadcast Team Alpha, and I'm going to say a few words about him first, but I'm the host tonight. My name is Aage, and my co-host Nori cannot be here, but she'll be with us next week. So I just committed her. She'll be here next week. Anyway, I also, before I introduce the guest, I also want to tell you how you can get in touch with me and Nori. We can have you go to broadcastteamalpha.com. Go into the contact feature, send us an email, and we'll get it and we'll get back to you and see what we can do for you. And also, among those 44 different platforms, we're also transmitting on Conscious Awakening Network. It's a wonderful place. Lots of good information there. They have close to 50 different shows over there covering all the stuff that we're not supposed to know about, but we should. So go over there to consciousawakeningnetwork.org, and you'll find a lot of good stuff there that you should listen to. So, otherwise, I am welcoming back to Broadcasting Alpha Drew Bankey. Welcome.
Hey, Augie, thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to a great conversation as always. So,
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to get out on the fringes again, right? Or maybe better yet, go in on the fringes again.
yeah, it's probably more of the latter on that one.
Yeah, that is that all depends on where you're looking at it from. Kind of like if we are the third planet from the sun, or if we are the sixth planet from the sun. That depends on if you go from the inside or the outside. The Anunnaki keep saying that we are the ninth planet. Well, I guess maybe they have their view of things. But I want to say a few words about Drew because he is here, and a lot of you you know him. He is a combat veteran. He's an author, a co-founder of an organization called Sacred Journeys Within, and oh, this is good. It's a federally recognized psychedelic church, and I want to hear about that. How do you do that thing? That's going to be interesting. And he is also on the speaking circuit, talking about powerful insights with plants and medicine. And plants, that should be the original medicine. So that's something to look into for every one of us. And also, he does has visits Native American ceremonies, and he talks on consciousness exploration. And he has been on the Discovery Channel and many other platforms that a lot of us know about, talking about plant medicine and journeys within. And he talked about the mind, about the extraterrestrials, UFOs, and a lot of other stuff. He's got a couple of books out, and one of them is I Am Perfect, and So Are You. And another book is Find Your Inner Guru. And you can find them on Amazon. And go to Amazon.com and put his name in there or the title of the books in there and look in the text of what is in it because these go very deep into the psyche and the spiritual of mankind. There's a lot of knowledge there. I looked at that and it's good stuff. So, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Augie. I'm excited to be here. It's always a great conversation. So, thanks for the introduction. It's my honor.
Yeah,
It's my honor to do the work and be here talking. So
Yeah, I just can't help it. Let's spend about 3 or 4 minutes on this psychedelic church. How do people do that? I know there's people out there watching right now. I know at least about one watching it. He would love to have one of those. How do you do it?
yeah, well, you got to have got to do a lot of paperwork, and the psychedelics is protected. Even if it's a church, even if it's psychedelics are illegal in the states. Here in Colorado, it's a little different. We have some different state laws than a lot of other states as far as psilocybin, DMT, and mescaline. But yeah, any of the 50 states, you can have a psychedelic church with the correct paperwork and the correct history behind it, really, because it's protected under the RFR, the Religious Freedom. No, the RFA. I'm sorry, the Religious Freedom Act. So that states that the government and everything can't step in and tell you how to pray. So if you have a genuine spiritual background of some type to back having a psychedelic church, it's not as easy as just filling out the paperwork and doing it. You have to have some type of backing. So my backing is the 2 books that I wrote. Is the proof that I'm a Sundancer, Sundance from in 2017, 18, and 19. So those are things that are definite evidence of the spiritual backing behind the church. So and
Mm.
and our church, in a one sentence nutshell, is a oneness based uh spiritual spiritual church that helps people lead them back to their own connection. So our goal is not to be a church forever, is only a church for a short time, really, because our members, we try to lead them back to a connection that everybody has. Everybody has a divine right to a connection back to source, and if that can be found through psychedelics, there is a way to do it legally in the states. It just has to have the correct paperwork. So our church is a 501c3 nonprofit plant medicine church, and our sacrament is ayahuasca and San Pedro and bufo varius and magic mushrooms, and that's what we that's our sacrament that we use to that our members use to connect back to the divine.
Mm. A 501c3, that's the government instituted structure, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
it's net nonprofit, so it's we're a nonprofit plant
yeah,
medicine church. So
yeah. That's something that you probably should look into, and that is that if you put a private contract inside of that, so everybody would become a member of that private contract, then you are also protected first for the 501c3, and for the second, you're also protected under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution of the United States of America, where it says government cannot interfere in private contract. So look into that. I think you're going to like that one.
yeah,
All right. Well, so then now the question of a psychedelic church, they most people think that a church have to have a god, but you go back to source, which is not really a god so much, but it's the source of all things. What is this source? Is there,
uh,
do you have maybe a
every
definition?
everything that we see, experience, feel, hear, anything that our senses perceive, ourselves, and things outside ourselves that we can't perceive, it's all source. It's I believe this is the way it was described to me from source, like because I was having a hard time like grasping like what this looks like. So source talks in pictures a lot, like source downloads and everything. Not a whole lot of times they're words. Mostly they're pictures, just knowledge that comes to you, like downloads come to you. But the pictures that they showed me when I asked how to explain, like, how am I part of source? It said, look inside, looking, basically, it showed me inside my body. It showed me a cell inside my body, and it pulled one cell out my body, and it gave it a name. And it said, basically, if this cell self like went by that name, but it was still a cell in your body, does that make it not part of your body? It's basically the question of whether it's a drop or whether it's the ocean or whether it's both. And the point when the drop realizes it's part of the ocean, that's the I guess that's the point where I'm at now.
Mm.
Is I realize I'm a drop and I realize I'm part of the ocean, and sometimes I'm the ocean and sometimes I'm the drop. But
Mm.
most of the time I'm skating some thin line in between the two. But it described the cells of our body making up each one of us are cells of source making up source, and it's one overall entity that we're connected to. That's when we go into the quantum realm. We're not really learning anything, and we're not being taught anything. We're just connecting into the mainframe database, the main information highway that runs through everything.
Mm.
And that's just as simple as slowing your mind down, taking a few breaths, and getting to the point of total calmness. And that's when you really tap into it. You get to that point and ask a question, whether it be telepathically or verbally, and that's when it formulates, because it's right there. There's no going for it. It's just always around us. So source is everything around us and us.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Everything.
most of that is probably not even visible with human eyes.
No, because we're looking at a very small window of the amount of frequency that we can see through our eyes. Like we're seeing a very small window of the light spectrum. Like, and we're hearing a very small window of the auditory spectrum, and we're feeling a very small window of the feeling. Where it's all we're seeing this very very small speck of what's there. And I truly think when you do psychedelics or anything to really raise your vibration, psychedelics is just a cheat code to raise your vibration very quickly. But there's tons of other ways. But when you raise your vibration, you're stepping out, you're opening up those windows to see more of the spectrum. And I think that's we're really not going anywhere. We're only opening ourselves up to experience more of the creation.
Oh, I love that explanation. That is good because according to what scientists are telling us is that we can only see about 2 to 3% of the light spectrum. Don't we wonder who lives in the other 98%?
Sure.
That's where it's at, and we can't see it.
Yeah, I mean,
That,
just think of it. Just think of a dog whistle. You know, the dog whistle
yeah.
is there. A dog can hear it, but you can't hear it. It's outside of, and we talk about what we can see all the time, but we got to take into account we have five other senses, actually more. We have six, seven, probably a lot more, six, seven, eight senses actually. If you count in telepathy and all the extra sensory perceptions that we're starting to unlock now. But we talk about sight all the time, but it, let's open up hearing. There's the dog whistle thing. That we know that there's a whistle, there's a noise that dogs can hear. Humans can't hear it. I've heard it when I've been close to ceremony. That's why I bring that up, because it really hit me as profound, because I was down in Florida doing a bunch of ceremonies years ago, and we went over to a friend's house I did like 6 ceremonies in maybe a month time, like led them. And I drink a little bit of ayahuasca each time I do a ceremony. So I'm basically microdosing, I'm basically microdosing with ayahuasca for the month, and vibing really high. Went over to visit a friend. They were training a dog. They were hitting the dog whistle on their collar, and it was almost putting me on my knees. About the third time it hit me, and no one else was reacting. About the third time it hit me, I was like, "Whoa, I can hear that," because I've been leading all these ceremonies for the past month, vibing real high, and I've tapped in, my spectrum of hearing has opened up from human hearing and also whatever a dog, whatever frequency a dog can hear. So, um, yeah, and that goes for all of our other senses too. It goes for smell. That's why we burn sage, burn Palo Santo and other things in ceremony. That's part of the ceremony. So people like can burn Palo Santo and burn sage after the ceremony and bring them back to that calmness that they felt in ceremony afterwards. That's what we call integration work, which is very important in psychedelic work. But understanding the mechanics and understanding why that you do things, like why are you burning sage? Yeah, you're burning sage because it clears spirits and all this other stuff, but you're also doing it because it's an olfactory memory click that will take your consciousness back to that peace and calmness that you found in ceremony. When times get rough, you can burn a little sage or something like that, and it'll help track your mind back through that smell.
Yeah. Yeah. And it appears to me that you were doing those ceremonies and the ability to hear the dog whistle because you expanded the envelope of perception there, and that stayed with you even after you did the ceremonies. So then it opens up for you additional abilities that stay with you afterwards too.
For sure. I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
I
And
and I don't hear a dog whistle now, but um, you know, you were on Spaced Out Radio, and you were talking about your machine and how it connects to the electromagnetic field, and then when a craft is in the area, it will trigger it and make an alarm noise, and then something's outside. I
yeah,
have that I have that inside with my ring in my ears. Whenever it goes from left to right, my ears ring a lot, but sometimes they ring more than most. Like around thunderstorms and stuff like that, they ring a lot. But when I know when one goes silent and then one goes louder and then one goes silent, one goes louder, that's when I know that something is off. And
mm,
that's when I go outside. So it was really interested. I wanted to mention that about that interview. That was an amazing interview, and thanks
mhm.
for coming on Spaced Out Radio. But yeah, that's definitely really struck me when you were talking about that. I was like, oh, I got that in my head.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was a fun show. For you out there watching this, you got to check out Spaced Out Radio. It is a good one. They have, well, just the name alone, how can that be a bad thing? It's really good. Now, you mentioned something also a little bit earlier about downloads. I've had some of those. It's an incredible experience when it comes. It could be a quick one with a thought flying through your mind with a concept, a visual image of a concept, or it can be an extensive one. But talk a little bit about maybe those downloads and how can people raise their vibration or position themselves so they can have these downloads of what they ask for.
I'm gonna shift my answer a little bit to answer your question. How do you differentiate between a download and your own mind? Let's take it there.
Mhm.
Um, there is there is a resonance that comes along with these downloads that they will come on, they will come on very fast, like you said, very fast. They might be very, very slow. They might come through dreams over time. But the download, quote unquote download, when it comes, has a resonance behind it, like a truth resonance, or something that like it's coming from not yourself, and it's truth. It's I can't explain it of how it works. I can't explain of why it works, but I can just tell you what the feeling of it is. And that's the feeling of it. Like it's it's a knowing that comes over you. And it could be I've had a lot of downloads where I've had inactive downloads and I've had active downloads. So the inactive downloads would be like coming in dreams or coming surprising me just in a ceremony or something like that, and just have this knowing that comes over you. Now, I have the other ones that I talk about are called active downloads, and those are the ones that come when I'm actively contemplating a theory or thought, and your mind's clicking and something doesn't sound right, and then you reconfigure the answer a little bit, and then something doesn't sound right and you reconfigure the answer, and this may only take a week, it may only take a day, it may only take a few minutes, or it may take months. But when you finally get that combination and that thought goes across that screen in your head, and you know it. And I
Yeah.
think everybody can feel like with the because everyone has had it, that they call it epiphanies or whatever. But I really think those are downloads. I think there's two different kinds. I think there's active downloads and I think there's inactive downloads. The inactive is the ones that surprise us out of nowhere. We walk around a corner and holy shit, we know quantum physics. Or the other one is the active download is when we're actively contemplating something and everything clicks and it just rings true, like, and it feels like it feels like you could take a deep breath again, and I call those active downloads. But it's very important, like, I think I was talking about it with you earlier today before the show, when we had like the pre talk. I think that it's by design that there's this resonance behind it that lets us know, okay, this is real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it may be a little different for different people. Could maybe because of their spiritual advancement or their knowledge of quantum mechanics, because knowledge of quantum mechanics is important because it enhances the believability of what happens.
Yeah.
Because if you are, let's say, buried in fear and religion, let's say anything outside of the physical, they're all demons. Yeah, that's the mind, the filter in the mind can stop a lot of these good downloads that we otherwise could have. Do you think?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that can derail it. Religion, things like that. People talk about channeling and stuff like that. How it's demonic. If you talk to hardcore Christians, they're gonna denounce it, and the Bible's really clear. They're all demons and stuff like this. Well, like, if you look at a lot of the records of these people, just sit down and talk to them for a minute. Like, what are they really talking about? They're talking about trying to better people, trying to help people. And what is their track record? They've done nothing but help people. And
Yeah.
so you're gonna tell me the demons in hiding because it's laying in the wait, because it's acting like it's helping people. There's always an excuse that they go back to the Bible. But I've been experiencing this stuff since 2016, since I first drank ayahuasca. It's been it's been a straight up roller coaster ride the whole time. It's leveled off the past couple of years, but those first couple of years, it was a wild ride. It was a lot of things I've never experienced before, a lot of things I've never thought existed, even my mind couldn't even contemplate some of the things I was experiencing and interacting with. But so I I get the initial shock, but it does level off towards the end and starts getting easier and better, and really starts turning into a game. Like and it's a beautiful game, not a trivial game, but it's just the most beautiful beautiful divine creation game that was ever created, and we're part of it. So we need to really be in honor and be in gratitude of what we're going through right now, because like quite literally, and I say this with the most sincerity that I can put out over the radio, that we are living through one of the most magical times in human history,
Yeah.
and we are so blessed, and so just enjoy it, and really just take it all in of what we're experiencing. I know some of the outside things and experiences that are going around the world. Everybody's not having a beautiful experience right now, but in the grand scheme of things, we are experiencing one of the most beautiful points in human history right now. Like, and just be in gratitude of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh, for those of you that's going to hear about what's outside of the physical here, um, after the bottom of the hour, I want to ask him something about what is there out there that we can experience, and then I'm going to back up the question and ask you, can you talk about maybe one of your most incredible experiences while you had under the influence of psychedelics? Is there something you could say about that?
Yeah. Oh, I have to think. There's a lot of experiences, but I have to. Yeah, I can speak on one. You want me to wait till after the break?
Yeah, yeah, we can do that now. That'll be good.
Okay. So, yeah, I was talking about time travel. This is in a peyote ceremony, a Native American peyote ceremony, traditional one, what they call a half moon altar. So, lots of these traditions, they go back and they talk about connections to stars, connections to moons, connections to planets, things like that. So this particular variation of the peyote ceremony is called a half moon altar, and there's three people, well, no, five people altogether that run the ceremony. There's a road man; he's the main person, and then there's a cedar person. So literally, this person sits there with a bag of dried cedar, and anytime someone messes up, um, if they puke or something like that, because there's vomiting in these ceremonies, they will throw cedar on the fire, and it's like a blessing for that whatever happened. Or if someone like walks the wrong way, or if someone trips over someone's feet or something like that, that they'll throw cedar on there. Anything like that. So they would throw cedar on the fire like hundreds of times throughout the night. Then you go around to the fireman. He's the one that's putting the wood on the fire in the middle of the teepee. And next to him is the doorman. And that's what my job normally would be, is the doorman. And his job is to keep the count of the people in the ceremony. People go out to use the restroom. If they're gone for a little while, he have to go out and make sure they come back into the ceremony. So he keeps a head count. So he's literally a door person for the physical and the spiritual. So he holds the door spiritually for the ceremony. So he doesn't let anything out or in of the ceremony spiritually. And then you
Mm.
go around to the drum person, and then there's that person's hitting a drum for the whole night. So in this ceremony, this is a few years. This is probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We're in the ceremony, and I'm a working my job. I'm a door person, and I'm cleaning up puke. Another thing the door person does is clean up puke. So anytime someone pukes, he gets a shovel, go picks it up. It's in sand. There's sand all over. So you're just like scooping up sand and then taking it outside, putting it on a hole, and then saying a prayer over and all that. So this particular night, like it seems like everybody was puking. There was like 50 people in the ceremony,
Oh,
and
wow.
one right after another, after another, all the way up to midnight. And then when it come to the midnight prayer song, he started the road man. He was praying to the eagle. So it was a water blessing to the eagle. And as soon as he started the song, it just hit me, and I leaned forward and I started puking. I'm on all fours and I'm looking at the fire, and the fire is I can see the fire going, and then it turns like digital. I can see the fire like digital, and I'm starting to like cry. I'm like weeping. I'm like heaving. I'm puking, crying, looking at the fire, and I blink my eyes, and I look like out of the corner of my eyes, I can see the room's different, and I look around, and we're in this field, and like we're not where we're like we were in a teepee, closed up, and all of a sudden we're in this field. And I look around, I'm still throwing up, and I look around the room, and there's like a bunch of like people in headdresses, and just everyone sitting around has headdresses, and uh, the roadman sitting there singing, the song's still there, and I look over, and the same guy that's running the ceremony in the physical, he's in this like vision I'm having, and singing the same song he's singing in the physical. So I go back, I blink, and I'm like, man, where the hell am I? I'm like, I look up, there's stars above me, and it was just like, it was weird. I was in another time, like another time, another
Hmm.
ceremony. There was a fire there and everything, and we were in a peyote ceremony, but there was no TP, and it wasn't the people I recognized. The only person I recognized was the guy singing the song. So I come back, I blink my eyes again. I'm back in the teepee, like back to reality, And I clean my mouth. I set back, and I'm about 15 minutes later. The road man, he comes. He's done singing the song. He comes walking out, and he's walking outside to use the restroom to go pee. And he walks out, goes pee, and he comes back, and he leans down beside me, and he's like, "That was some crazy stuff, huh?" It's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, I've only done that one other time. I've only time traveled in a peyote ceremony one other time. He's like, we went back to another ceremony that was had at one time at this very spot where we're at right now, but it was a different time. So there was a peyote ceremony. What he was telling me, there was a peyote ceremony at that exact spot in the land, but it was from a different time, and we just
Wow.
happened to be doing it. There whatever led to that ceremony being held at that spot I was at, whatever circumstances led up to that, it was no accident. So
Oof. Wow. Boy, oh boy. That's a wild one. Yeah.
yeah,
Time
so there was,
travel. Time.
it was a
Yeah, go
shared
ahead.
vision. So it was a shared vision that he's only had one other time, and he's been serving medicine like over 25 years, and he's only had it happen one other time when he was first starting off. But he's like, that was very rare to have that happen, where you have like a shared vision with another person in it, that and you come out and you're in the same
Yeah.
ceremony, and you just kind of look at, because I saw him, but I just thought it was all part of like the situation. I didn't know that he was there too, but he was there too.
Wow. Wow. Man. Well, we are at the bottom of the hour, and we are here talking with Drew Bankey. He uh, he has turned into somewhat, I don't know if he want to use the title or not, but I would, somewhat of a spiritual teacher. And he'll be talking about psychedelics and his Church of Psychedelics. That's you gotta watch the beginning of the show to understand that one. That's pretty good. And we're talking about experiences that you can have during psychedelic experiences, and this gets really deep. And the the second half here, I want to touch on something too, because the people that contacted me and said, ask him about what can we see outside of the physical when reality open up to us so we can experience it either using psychedelics or maybe the mind on its own. It is there. Remember that 2% that we can experience of the light spectrum? All the unseen influences around us, they are outside of the 2%, but they're still there. Just like me here, I got people living in this house with me, but I can't see them. I can see them out of my corner of my eye as shadow people, but they're here. What what can you experience of other entities maybe while you're doing these psychedelic experiences, or maybe just by the mind alone? What can we experience out there? What do you think?
Well, I think that's a very big question. I think I think we can experience anything. We can experience anything all the way up to source. The story gets bigger. As you get closer to source, the story keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You start to understand that we've been around for eons. We will be around for eons. We've been around eternity. We'll be here for eternity. You start to understand your consciousness goes on forever. You start to understand it's not just an 80-year chunk of time that you have to work with. You actually have eternity to work with when when you start identifying with your conscious self and not your physical self as your number one. Your physical self is your number one for 80 years, 80 to 85 years, or whatever it is. Could be 70 years, whatever. But
Yeah.
that chunk that you have your physical, once you shift and start to understand your main thing that you need to focus on is your conscious self. The this goes back to this brings up something that's been in the news here lately about the Dalai Lama. He just had his 90th birthday. They're talking about where he's going to be reincarnated at. He said he's not going to reincarnate in China. He said he will reincarnate outside China next time. The Chinese government's trying to say that they have rights over where he reincarnates, and he's supposed to reincarnate back into China. So the Chinese government's trying to take control over where the Dalai Lama reincarnates next. So these are conversations outside of the United States. Like, we have these conversations in the United States, like, oh, like, are you going to be buried? Are you going to be cremated when you die? Like, for me, I
Yeah.
don't care. Like, it for me, it doesn't matter. Like, because I know that I'm still gonna be there. Like, especially from my my near death experience in 2019, I know that the consciousness never stops. That it never stopped. So to answer the question, what's there outside of our realm? Like, man, there's more than you could ever imagine in outside those realms that we can see, touch, feel, smell, sen- you
Mm.
know sense, like all these senses that we have. Like, there's unlimited. There's no way to really put a number on it, but it's really whatever. eh, what it really goes back to, it's whatever your mind could imagine, plus, like, it's outside of what you can contemplate with your physical mind. And that's why
Mm.
it's outside of your physical mind, because it's outside of what you're meant to really experience. We can have peaks at it and things like that, but if you were to see everything that's around you all the time, it wouldn't be a human experience anymore. It'd be a different experience.
Yeah, and it would be, I'm not so sure with our present state of mind, we probably couldn't handle that very well.
That's that's where the question comes into disclosure. Everybody
Yeah.
everybody wants disclosure, everybody wants to know the truth, but not a whole lot of people are. honest enough with themselves to ask themselves the question, can you like, what was it from the X-Files? Can you handle the truth? Or what there was, what was that said? Can you handle the truth? Like a
Hmm.
lot, I think a lot of minds aren't ready for that. Like a lot of minds don't have the foundation for that. You know, that they need that's why I think that's why I don't denounce religions, things like that, because a lot of these people need religions. A lot of people need the intermediary right now. They
Yeah.
need they need a priest to go to. They need a therapist. They need, they need a guru. But there's a growing number of us that don't need a guru, that need a book called Find Your Inner Guru. So that's
Mm.
why I wrote the second book. But that's not for everybody. It's not everybody's time right now. And it's not a hierarchy thing. It's not a I'm better than you. It's just it's about building a spiritual foundation. And that's what people really need to concentrate on right now, especially for the times ahead. Because I think the times ahead, the more spiritual foundation that you have, the more you're going to be able to accept and understand and ultimately digest and what's about to happen, like what is happening in the world right now.
Yeah. Now, you touched on something here that a lot of people should think about. When disclosure comes, I'm sure the first ones that we will be introduced to is going to look like us. But from there on, we're going to meet scaly skinned people. We're going to mantis. How do we deal with stuff like that? With being all ingrained in the old way of looking at anything that doesn't look like us, gotta be a demon. Boy, that's something to think about.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, but I think source in the universe has been writing this story for a while now, and it's been unfolding. If you look at the whole jab thing that happened in 2020, it started to show and then it come out to where it's all a lot kind of fake. So there's a lot of stuff that's been happening that's been opening up our perception more and more and more, and it's been doing
Yeah.
it kind of in the background where we don't even realize it's happening. If you would have told me in when I was in high school, when I was smoking weed out behind the pine tree before class, that when I was in my 30s, 40s, that I was going to be able to walk in stores and like smoke in front of cops and things like that, it was a reality that was outside my reality. But
Yes.
now it's like it's a totally different reality. If you were to tell me when I was 30 years old that there's ETs, there's a spiritual realm and all this stuff. That was a reality outside my reality. But now it's a totally different reality. I think about my kids a lot when I think about this paradigm, because I have two older kids that are adults, 19-year-old and about to be 22-year-old, and then I have a 2 and a 3-year-old.
Mhm.
Those two sets of kids, they're growing up in a totally different reality. One has started a reality where ET wasn't real, and now we're transitioning basically into a time of disclosure. Like, if in my opinion, if you don't call what the government releasing photos, videos, all these CIA files of studying consciousness, psychedelics, and all these other stuff, if you can't see that disclosure's already happened, like, I don't know what you really
Yes.
need more, other than POTUS coming out on the South Lawn,
Yeah.
and stepping up to a podium. But they're
Yeah.
growing up where two different realities. And then I have my younger kids where they're never gonna live a reality where ET wasn't real.
Yeah.
their whole
Absolutely.
their whole life is ET's real. There's that they were born post TikTok videos, so things like that. Just the two paradigms of it's just amazing of these new kids being born from 2016 or whatever on from these first videos being leaked. They're growing up in a totally different timeline in reality than what we grew up in. And it's just amazing, and
Yeah,
it's only gonna keep progressing more and more and more. If you ever, those of us have kids, you always want your kids to do better than you, and that's
yeah,
always, the overall prayer. And
yeah,
and we're seeing that, this younger generation is understanding this thing happening a lot more than the older crowd. So
yeah. In your experiences, have you had any direct visual images or contact with something that would look like an extraterrestrial?
sure. What was the first part in the ceremonies?
Yeah, or in your experiences that you have been part
Yeah,
of?
the grays. Did I speak about the grays and the healing
No,
last time?
I think you mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, so the grays, it was, man, it was a long time back, maybe 18 or 19, somewhere around there. I was in a ceremony with one of my teachers, and this was a time when my wife had been leading up to the ceremony for about 2 or 3 weeks. She was having like stomach cramps, like female stomach cramps, and they weren't like intense, but it was enough to where it was discomfort, like day in day out. It was discomfort. So coming up to the ceremony, it was with 5-meo, but it was with yopo. So not with bufo, where most people, if they hear 5-meo, they think they think of bufo. But 5-meo, that molecule is contained in many other things. And this plant called yopo, it produces a bean. And those beans, when they're crushed and pulverized into dust and then blown in the nose like powder in the nose, it's really deep. You go from 0 to 1 million, like in a split second, and you're vibrating very high. But so in this ceremony, I was administered the medicine, and a few moments after I was administered the medicine, I was starting to vibrate. My ears were ringing, and I was just vibrating so high to where I vibrated. And I heard a pop, and then there was silence in my head. So it was like, "Wee," and just kept going, like all the way up to where it was just so loud I couldn't stand anymore, and then it just popped, and then it was silence. And
Mm,
then in the corner of the room, I saw what I thought was a cell phone. I thought someone had their light, like their flashlight. I thought someone had left their cell phone on and had turned their flashlight on, and it was in the corner. So I look over there at this light, and it starts getting bigger and bigger. It's coming up from the ground, and this oval starts opening up, and it gets about 2 or 3 feet opening, and I see this hand reach out, and it's three long gray fingers reaches around the corner, and this head pops out, and this tall gray comes out 7, 8 feet tall or whatever. It was all the way up to the ceiling in this room, and steps out, and another one and another one. So three of them step into the room, and I'm just, I can't even move. Like, I don't have any fear or anything, but I can't get up, My mind's telling me, I was like, you know, this is your chance to interact with the grays, like, and my mind's sitting here, like all this stuff I've heard about grays is coming up and all this stuff, but they're walking around, and I just watch them for a moment. There's not much I could really do. Like, there's like three tall, like 7, 8 foot grays walking around, and they're walking around everybody in the ceremony. There's maybe like 20 people in this ceremony, and they're starting to heal. They're like holding their hands over them and their palms facing them, and I can see energy going out of their hands and going into their chest, and they're holding one hand on the other, and they're just walking around, and it's just like so natural. They're like floating around the room healing everybody. So finally, I get enough courage to stand up, and one of them like motions to me and starts like talking to me telepathically, like, come over here. So I walk over to them, and they stand behind me and hold my hand, and they're telling me telepathically what to do. They're like, focus on your heart, like focus on like the most loving moment you could think of. So I went back to, like, I was thinking of the memory of my first child, holding my first child in my arms, Sienna, like my oldest daughter, like the very first time holding her, all the realizations that was happening of me creating life, me being part of this bigger picture. It's just such a deep spiritual experience when you hold your first child, but your heart's just exploding. And they're like, get to that point, and then once you hold that memory, once you hold that vibration, your heart just felt like it's about to pop. Like, let it out and let your energy go through your chakra system and through your meridian points, and then focus out your hands. So they were basically teaching me, focus on love, like a really loving moment, and then that's the key to really healing, and then kind of visualizing the energy coming out of the center of your body, going down your arm and coming out your meridian points. And we have meridian points in our hands and the bottom of our feet. That's like known. There's meridian lines that go from your right hand to left hand, right hand, uh right palm to the bottom of your left foot. There's a meridian line that goes and it crosses at your belly button, your sacral chakra, your sacred chakra, because that's your portal that you come into this world through. That your belly button or umbilical cord, that was the portal that you come from your source, your mother. So everything, even in the physical, we start with these very deep spiritual lessons all the way from birth. You know, we come from source. We have a tether that's connected. It gets disconnected. That happens on a physical level and a
Yeah.
spiritual level, and that's why a lot of us have, are very very deep with very deep ties to our mother and things like that, because that's our source. In a way, that's our source of life. That's where we enter this portal through. But anyways, so the meridian lines, the grays were teaching me this, and that's how they taught me Reiki, advanced form of Reiki, and I guess you would call it. So,
Mm.
um, and it's very simple. It's not a very complicated concept. It is energy going out of my meridian lines, and
Yeah.
then I focus my healing when I heal people, or when I help. Well, I shouldn't say when I heal. When I help other people heal, all I'm doing is helping clear their chakra. And
Mm.
because wherever the spiritual or emotional trauma, it gets manifested in a blockage in a chakra point. So a lot of us
Okay.
have problems, especially here in the Western world, because we're not taught how to grieve properly. We have colon cancer. We have all these lower intestine cancers, and those are directly tied back to not being able to grieve properly, and not really expelling those, and not
Yeah.
processing the emotions properly like we're supposed to. And when they get held up in the root chakra, which is the epicenter for um, is the physical epicenter for, your colon, things like, your lower extremities, things like that. That's why we
Mm.
see such a high percentage of colon cancer and things like that in the Western states, because it's
Yeah.
directly related to not grieving properly. And if you go over to India, colon cancer is not as prevalent. Like lower extremity cancers are not as
Yeah.
prevalent, because they're processing both physical and emotional and well, we're just call it energetic
Hmm.
traumas, how they're supposed to. You can grieve and be sad about someone dying, but holding on to it for years and years and years will manifest in cancer in the lower extremities.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Uh, I got another idea that I want to share with you. And that is everybody out there would, well, not everybody, but a lot of people out there, they're telling me, I can't wait until we get to 5D, get into the fifth dimensional existence when everything will be wonderful. Well, there is, I'm an astral traveler and I've been there. I know a little bit about what you can expect. Everything at those levels above the astral world, lower levels, it's all telepathic. The telepathic communication is used. That's how you communicate. Now, I'm going to ask you guys out there, are you sure that you want everybody to know what you are thinking about? Now, dwell on that question for a while and ask me then if you are ready for 5D, because
Yeah.
that is what will happen. Whenever you meet someone, you're going to know what they think about you, about everything else. Are we ready for that? I want to hear your comment on this because it's
No, I come to that.
yeah.
I come to that realization. Probably about pretty early on in this whole thing. I realized that the spirits could hear everything. Like they could hear my thoughts when I was sleeping. They could hear my thoughts anywhere behind closed doors. When I was alone, it didn't matter. So I knew that part of my path, I was going to have to get very, very honest with myself. Very, very honest with myself, because it really doesn't boil down to anyone else, but you got to be very honest with yourself. Very, like, what is your true thoughts? Like, anybody that talks to me for any amount of time know that they just know, like, okay, like he doesn't know everything, but he's whatever he does know, he's very passionate. Whatever he feels that he does know, he's very
Mm,
passionate about it. And I really, that's that's it. That's it on me. Like that's me in a nutshell. All the other stuff, the shaman, the author, all the other stuff, those are outside of me. Those are part of me, but that's not who I am. Basically, I'm here. I'm trying to help, and I'm what I know, and what I don't know, like I'm still thinking about it. And
mhm.
I don't want to know everything. This is, people are so caught up in the destination. Like when I take a road trip, I enjoy the miles in between me and the destination.
Yeah,
So that's what I would say to everybody. Enjoy the ride there, because what we're experiencing right now has never happened before, and it will never happen again.
yeah,
What's happening in human evolution's history right now, this will never happen again. It's never happened. This this it's been close. It's been close many times. It was close in the time of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. The the masculine, Jesus was the masculine, Mary Magdalene was the feminine. The the God, Father God, source, the whole story of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and uppercase G God is nothing but a story of source and the masculine and the feminine, the Holy
yeah,
Trinity. The Holy Trinity goes way outside Christianity or any other religion. It goes to the very beginning of creation, when source when source started the idea of creation, when source started and separated himself into two opposing forces, the masculine and the feminine. Then he stepped away and let creation begin after that. That is
mhm.
that is the beginning of creation. There was no Big Bang. There was
No,
there was a conscious separation of source when he knowingly separated himself, itself. I shouldn't say himself, itself, into
mhm,
two opposing energies that were both equally powerful, equally needed, all equals, but totally opposite. And that's how creation started between Matt, and then he stepped away, and those two forces eventually manifested into the physical in a man and a woman. We
Yeah.
are going through the literally our lives, our physical lives, all this physical stuff that we're going through. We are going through a visual representation of the of not the battle, but the balance between the masculine and the feminine. And we are here at the moment where we're understanding it is okay for a man to hold a baby and to change a diaper. It is okay for
Yeah.
a woman to go outside and do quote unquote masculine things, cut wood or take care of animals, things like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from the masculine, it doesn't take away from the feminine. It only makes each of them stronger. But what it is doing is bringing each individual person and finding that balance of the energy. It's raising the masculine in the females, it's raising the feminine in the males to bring an inner balance so we can connect to source.
Very well said. We are down to the bottom of the end of the show here. Let people know where they can find your books and where they can possibly make contact with you if they would want to.
I'm in the astral whenever you want to visit the astral, but you can find the books on Amazon. I'm Perfect and So Are You. Find Your Inner Guru, both on Amazon. The digital copies are cheap. I made them that way on purpose so anybody could access them. Sacredjournieswithin.com is the website. And yeah, you can find me on any of the socials. Um, I'm even on the Thread. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X. Wherever you're prefer to do your social medias at. And yeah, you ever get bored, type in my name on Spotify or type in Drew Bankey on YouTube and
Yeah.
find the archives to this show or the previous episode I was on here, or I've been on at least 200 or so different interviews since
Mhm.
2019 when I first come
Yeah.
out public. So
Okay. Yeah. And your website is sacredjournieswithin.com.
yep, and any of the socials you can find me just by my name, Drew Bankey, and type
All
it in,
right.
and you'll be able to find me. There is some spammers out there that's been taking my pictures and making false sites and stuff. All my I'm verified on all the sites, so if there's not a blue check mark behind my name, uh, be very wary of that. But
Yeah.
all the socials, they should have a blue check mark behind my name, and that's the real me. So,
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. They will always copy you if they think you're good. So take it as a compliment.
oh, I do. It's just
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
try not to get mad about anything anymore.
No,
It's just
no
all
need to.
it's all interesting.
Yeah, it's all good. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us here, Drew. And gosh, this was good again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we got.
have to do it again in a little while.
Yeah, we got to do another show sometime. So we will see you then. And for those of you watching, if you are watching us on YouTube right now, please subscribe. That'll help us a lot. And then again, until next time, be good to each other.